أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين اجعل القرآن ربيع قلوبنا ونور أبصارنا يا أرحم الراحمين. Inshallah, we'll just start, guys, with a verse of Quran, and Ramadan Mubarak to you and your families. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all your efforts, inshallah, through this month, all your extra voluntary deeds, all the qira'ah of the Quran. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. So this, guys, it talks about the month. It is شهر رمضان, the month of Ramadan is شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن, is when, as Ustadh Imad spoke about earlier, is when the Quran was revealed. أنزل فيه القرآن. القرآن, what is القرآن? هدى للناس, it's a guidance to mankind. هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان, and also showing the true light and the true path for us to follow. So what a great month for us to be going into the Uloom of Quran, the Tafseer of Quran, and also the Shamaa'il of our beloved Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which was described as a walking Quran or a manifestation of the Quran. So alhamdulillah, last week we did Surah Al-Fatiha. This week, inshallah, we'll be focusing on Surah an-Naba. So the first surah in Juz Amma. And a quick recap from last week, Surah Al-Fatiha, the two major themes or the overall purpose of the surah was for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show us how to make dua to Him, and how do we make this dua, and what we are asking for, which is of the most importance, which is اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, to show us the true path. Now, Surah al-Naba, again, it's a Makki surah. Now, Surah al-Naba, if we look at the overall theme or the purpose of the surah, a lot of it is talking about the Day of Judgment. The Naba itself, we're going to discuss later, this great news is talking about the Day of Judgment. Now, what happens here, guys? We need to remember again, this is a Makki surah. So this was when the first initial verses, as Ustadh Imad was speaking about earlier, that the Quran was revealed over 23 years in portions. And the rahmah of that is that it was done through a gradual bringing down of verse after verse. So the Makki surah were those that were early into the stages of revelation Prophet ﷺ. And this is one of those earlier surah, Surah al-Naba. And what happens is here, guys, we see that the Sahaba, they would spend all night reciting this surah. And this is a specific surah that they would recite. And they will be spending time at night crying in tahajjud, reflecting upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling them. And most importantly, telling them about the Day of Judgment. So a lot of us, guys, we look at this small surah of Juz Amma that it's something that kids try to memorize. But if anything, guys, if we have not memorized this surah, it is a time for us to make sure that we are revising and we are memorizing this surah. Just like the Sahaba did, the first surah that they memorized were most of them from Juz Amma. So it's actually a sunnah for us to be memorizing those smaller surah, because they carry so much worth, they carry so much meaning when it comes to Tawheed, when it comes to Akhirah, when it comes to the stories of the prophets. So this is why we need to make sure that these surah become part of our life. And the memorizing of this surah, the reciting of this surah continuously is what helps us, bi'idhnillah, become like the Sahaba that were deeply affected when they would read this surah. So Surah al-Naba, as we spoke about before, the overall purpose of it is speaking about the Day of Judgment. There are 5 major themes within the surah, and we'll go into the first theme, being theme verses 1 to 5. So let's get into it, inshallah. عَمَّ يَتَسَاءَلُونَ. السؤال يسألون. This is talking about, what are they doing? what are they asking about? So Allah's bringing attention. So what are they asking about? There was a lot going on in Mecca when this message came down for the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba were becoming Muslim. There was a lot of talk. There was a lot that was happening, and it was creating a lot of hot debate, hot topic. Being now, Amma yatasa'alun. And who are they? Yatasa'alun, the ones that are asking are the mushrikeen of Mecca. The mushrikeen of Mecca. But guys, this is a universal thing. So for you, if you were to write a note that this Amma yatasa'alun is not just about the mushrikeen of Mecca, but to many of us, it's a universal and it's a eternal. So you look at it, it's been something that's been going on and on about disputing whether the day of Akhirah or the day of judgment will happen. And we'll talk about later that even within general Muslims, that even though someone is a Muslim, that we find that their actions are different to those that actually believe in the day of judgment. And this is what it's all about, the Tawheed and the oneness of Allah and us coming back. Do we believe that there is a day of judgment? There is a day that we will return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. an-Naba al-Azim, they're asking about what? This great event that the Prophet ﷺ kept reinforcing, and through these verses of Quran that were coming down. And in Naba al-Azim, the word Naba is actually news. So the great news is what? The great news means Akhirah, the day of judgment. الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ. Tamam. So now what is this is what they are differing about. And again, the people of Ahl Mecca, the mushrikeen at the time, and also for those to us today and over the centuries and in future that will keep denying this day of judgment. Now, the thing is at sometimes الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ, so we talk about the word ikhtilaf. Now, sometimes they were actually asking out of curiosity. So what they would do is ask, what is going on? What is it about this day of judgment? Some were doing it out of a form of hypocrisy or mockery, and some were actually doing it out of actually really wanting to understand what is this day of judgment. Now, for us, what does this mean for us today? الَّذِي هُمْ فِيهِ مُخْتَلِفُونَ. Al-ikhtilaf, this ikhtilaf can show in our mannerisms and actions. And as I mentioned before, this is what differentiates us as mu'mineen, believers, and those that are not believing. So we might have many Muslims that are Muslim, but their actions say that there is something different to the belief of them, that they believe that there is a day of judgment. So now, it keeps going. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, here comes the warning. كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. كَلَّا, this is what they mean. What does this word كَلَّا mean? كَلَّا means it's a form of rejection. كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. So the ones that are denying, the ones that are differing about this, كَلَّا, surely, or indeed, or this is a true rejection that you will come to know. كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. The warning is coming. ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. Now it comes again. What you might say, why is Allah repeating? And you'll find this a lot in many verses of the Quran, that is a bit of repetition. Now the hikmah in repetition is that it's a form of reinforcement. And the second thing as well is that it shows its importance and it shows its seriousness. كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. As many of us as parents, if a child, for example, is doing something wrong, we say, just wait till you get home. And then you say it again. One more time, just wait till we get home. Now, when that happens twice, you know, okay, the first time was serious, but the second time, it's getting very serious. So, ثُمَّ كَلَّا سَيَعْلَمُونَ. سَيَعْلَمُونَ also comes from the word, guys, سَيَعْلَمُونَ comes from the word ilm. Ilm. So the word ilm means a form of knowledge. And truly, guys, the greatest form of knowledge, ya ustads, the greatest form of knowledge is us having true yaqeen and true belief in the day of judgment. Now, the first thing, we've covered the first thing. And the first thing, we'll reinforce it one more time, inshallah, the verses 1 to 5, is that the question is asked and a warning is given to disbelievers. Now, what usually happens is, all right, now there's a hot debate, hot topic talking about the Day of Judgment. And we want to look into the context of it now being in Mecca around 1400 years ago. Now we see Allah brings down these ayat. He talks about now there's a lot of debate, there's a lot of talk going on in Mecca. What do we do now? Allah in this next theme is now proving His ability to the people that were denying this Day of Judgment. Now, a lot of people, even at that time, still believed in Allah. They believed in God. But many of them rejected that there will be a Day of Judgment. Like there's a great story where one of the Prophet ﷺ was giving da'wah to one of the mushrikeen in Mecca, and he says he pulled out a bone from the ground that was rotted, and he crushed it in his hand and blew it into the air. And he said to the Prophet ﷺ, Ya Rasulullah, or Ya Muhammad, he's not going to call him Ya Rasulullah, but Ya Muhammad, do you tell me that after this we become this, that we are going to be resurrected? And Allah responds to him, surely the one that brought you into this world the first time can bring you again very easily the second time. So now what does Allah do? Allah's proving His ability. So this is from verses 6 to 16. And what do we do? This is what Allah is showing us now. If someone's questioning me about something, what I would do is I show them that I have ability. And how do we do it? We show evidence of what we've done in the past. A very good example would be if I'm going in for a job application. If I'm going in for a job application, it can be, for example, a CEO of a company. Now, when you're going in, you need to show evidence that you've led teams and led companies and done so and so and so and so. Now, for example, Steve Jobs, we know he died, but if he's going to go into a mobile phone shop and they're asking for a worker, he's going to come in and explain to them what he has done. I've created the iPhone, I've done this, I've run companies, I've led teams. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now is doing this same strategy with the Day of Judgment. So now what does He do? He starts by saying, Alam naj'al al-arda mihada. Did we not? So He's now talking about what Allah has done. Did we not make the earth flat and smooth? And this word mihada, Alam naj'al al-arda, the word arda we all know is this earth. Mihada is a few forms of translations for this. Mihada means something that is smooth. But also mihada or mihad in Arabic means a bed or a resting place or a cradle. Or another word for it is a cot where we put our children in. And this is a resemblance that Allah has created this earth of a place of safety, a place that is not something that is hard for us to walk about. It's not hard for us to, for example, harvest and farm and pave roads and live about our ways of life. Now Allah is now saying, did I not do this for you? Number one. Number two, did I not also do this? وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. This is something quite amazing, and there's a lot of scientific miracles with this one. وَالْجِبَالَ, al-jibal is a mountain. أَوْتَادًا talks about their pegs. So modern day, if any of us have gone out camping, to pull up for example, a tent, we pull down the pegs. So we make sure that when it gets windy or there's a bit of rain, it doesn't pull it out. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the example of mountains as pegs. Now, the Prophet ﷺ, over 1400 years ago, an unlettered man from the middle of the desert with no understanding of reading and writing or be able to, as Ustadh Ahmed spoke about before, how could he come about and give these scientific proofs? So now the proof is what? That scientists say the mountain is not just about the mountain on top. The mountain is about what goes underneath the mountain. So for example, we have Mount Everest. It's roughly 9 kilometers high. But the scientists have gone in and seen that the Mount Everest is actually 125 kilometers deep into the ground. And that's just an example of one mountain. So all the other mountains, they actually dig into the ground. And the reason why Allah used the word awtad is to say that I created these mountains, and scientifically it's been proven, to keep the earth firm, to keep the earth from having a lot of natural disasters or to shake upon us. So this is why now, even today, scientists say that they do not like mountains to be carved away or to be brought down or demolished, because it causes destruction on earth and the increase in natural disasters, which a lot of us see today. So now, number 1 talks about the creation of the earth. Number 2 talks about the creation of the mountains. Again, we keep going back. This one, the one that is doing this, can he not bring us back? Can he not bring us back to the day of judgment? Number 3, وَخَلَقْنَاكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا, and I also created you in what? In pairs. And this hikmah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the male and female, whether it's from animals to plants to human beings, to even atomic structures that we can't even see, microscopic particles. This is where a lot of the previous scientists and science today are dumbfounded to think, how can this book 1400 years ago bring about all this amazing, accurate aspects? Only from who? From the one that created this world, the one that created the universe, the one that created all of us. And this form of rahmah, the pairs, is what keeps us going. Now, without a male and female, this world, humanity, will not be able to continue. Allah's creation is He created male and female. Now the next one as well, number 3, now we go to number 4. وَجَعَلْنَا نَوْمَكُمْ سُبَاتًا. Allahu Akbar. Look, another, this ni'mah from Allah. I've also created your what? Your sleep as a source of rest. Now only, guys, can you imagine? And this is a form of disease. Some people aren't able to sleep, and they say that their bodies go into a weak state. They lose a lot of nutrition. And any of us that haven't had a bit of sleep, I mean, if there are parents that have had children and have been taken away from their sleep, it is very difficult. Now imagine we had to live life without being able to sleep. And this is from the rahmah of Allah, that Allah gives us sleep for us to rest. And the other one, it also shows our form of weakness, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not sleep or does not need to take a rest. As in the previous scriptures where they said Allah created the world in 7 days, the 7th day being the day where he sat on his throne and he needed to have a rest. This is not what we believe in our aqidah. Allah does not rest. Allah does not sleep. But for us as human beings, we have this form of sleep as a minor form of death. So Allah shows us that I put you to death and bring you to life every single day as a form of minor resurrection. Now, number 4, we had number 5. And I've also made وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ, the night, libasa, as a form of covering. So use the word libas, as in literally like the covering of our clothes. So what does clothing do for us? It gives us sitra. So that what happens, the sitra, the word sitra means it forms like we're able to hide away things that we don't usually do at night. So in the day, for example, at night, you'll find, for example, this is the time where couples might be getting intimate, where you don't want others to see. We close our blinds at home. You also find that the night is also sometimes, it opens up doors for other aspects as well. So some people that can't be doing things that day, they'll be able to do at night. And then another one, وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا, number 6. But I also did what? So the day is a cover and a form of rest. And I gave you the night, and I gave you the day to be able to do what? To give the word ma'asha, and you might hear this, anyone with maybe an Arabic background. Okay, what is your ma'ash? Like, for example, $1,000 a week or $2,000 a week. I give him a ma'ash. This word ma'asha is a form of livelihood. So Allah used this word. I also created for you, O mankind, day for what? For source of livelihood. Now, and what I'll do is I'm going to mention, guys, a quick verse. And this is from Surah Al-Qasas. And it is we have verses 71 to 73. And this is where we have sometimes tafsir given in another form of tafsir in the Quran. So I'll read this quick ayah for you guys, inshallah. قل أرأيتم إن جعل الله عليكم الليل سرمدا إلى يوم القيامة من إله غير الله يأتيكم بضياء أفلا تسمعون قل أرأيتم إن جعل الله عليكم النهار سرمدا إلى يوم القيامة من إله غير الله يأتيكم بالليل تسكنون فيه أفلا تبصرون ومن رحمته جعل لكم الليل والنهار لتسكنوا فيه ولتبتغوا من فضله ولعلكم تشكرون. And I'll read this very quick translation for you. The night and the day are blessings from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that mankind is truly ungrateful for. To really make mankind understand the blessing of the night and day, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Qasas, say, Ya Muhammad, just think if Allah were to cast perpetual night, perpetual meaning continuous night, only night, over you until the day of resurrection, what Allah other than He could bring you light? Say, O Muhammad, just think again, if Allah were to cast perpetual day over you until the day of resurrection, what Allah other than He could bring you night in which to rest? Do you not see, O mankind? In His mercy He has given you night and day so that you may rest and seek His bounty and be grateful. So inshallah we are of those that are grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now we continue. Another one. Allah says, now you think you're denying, or you guys think I can't bring the day of judgment? All right, let's now keep going with the verses and the proofs. وَبَنَيْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا شِدَادًا. And I also built 7 strong heavens above you. And the Prophet ﷺ mentions in a hadith that the 7 heavens above us, so we're in the first heaven, and then there's the second and third and fourth. Each heaven, he says, our heaven, so being here as in our universe and galaxies, and I mean, we know how massive it is, that this heaven, compared to the second heaven, is like a ring in the desert. And the second to the third is like a ring in the desert. And the fourth to the fifth, a ring in the desert. It continues. This is the greatness of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Can this not Allah bring us back on the day of judgment? Bala. Let's keep going. وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا. Now the siraj and wahhaja, the wahhaj means something that's blazing. Siraj munir is something that is a light. So what is Allah referring to here? وَجَعَلْنَا سِرَاجًا وَهَّاجًا. A blazing light is what? Is talking about the sun. And if you guys think about this, the sun was something that was so highly devoted by previous generations that would actually worship the sun. So the Persian Empire, when the Prophet ﷺ came with the Sahaba and Umar bin Khattab, opened up Persia, which is modern day Iran and the neighboring areas, they used to worship fire. Now, they also used to be forms of sun worship. The sun, guys, brings so much benefit to human beings. It brings us so much benefit that it is the source of a lot of life on earth. Now, if you think about this, and this is some of aspects of the sun itself. So the surface temperature of the sun is 5,500 degrees Celsius, but its core is 13,600,000 degrees Celsius. So this is as big as the earth. So now, just that core section. So now, if you think about it, it also, what it does, it gives off 4 million tons of hydrogen every single second. That is the equivalent of 100 billion tons of dynamite every second to generate this form of power and illumination and source of life to this earth. Now just take heed and think about this for a few seconds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the greatest of creators, did this, and it's designed in perfect position where our earth orbits the sun. The earth is on its rotating axis, and what it does is it forms that day and night and gives benefit. And on top of that, the sun gives different benefits like vitamin D. It gives, for example, it forms or reduces issues of fungal infections. Guys, the list is ongoing, and the list is something that's exponential. This is from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we keep going. Now, on top of that, وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ, the mu'sirat, يُعْصُرْ مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ مَاءً ثَجَّاجًا, the amazing analogy Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given here. وَأَنزَلْنَا مِنَ الْمُعْصِرَاتِ, these, Allah talks about the mu'sirat. It's like, let's say we have a sponge, right? When we have a sponge and we're washing or we're doing dishes, the sponge holds water. To release that water, I squeeze, and what it does is it releases the water. Allah gave the analogy of clouds where it holds, we know, millions and millions of tons of water above our heads that we can't physically see it's holding water. But what it does, is, subhanAllah, when it holds, it releases, and the analogy Allah gave is releasing as if like a sponge has been squeezed. Can this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not bring us back to the day of judgment where we all be standing in front of Him and be held accountable for what we have done on this earth? Bala. And we keep going. لِنُخْرِجَ بِهِ حَبًّا وَنَبَاتًا. So now what has He done? So He said Allah has given us the sun, He's given us rain, and He says why? To bring forth with it grains and plants. This is the form of life and sustenance, that through water and sunlight we be able to grow grains and be able to grow our plants. We'll also be able, وَجَنَّاتٍ أَلْفَافًا, that through this, that we're able to harvest massive, for example, farms or massive gardens. So we see now Allah, through this, has brought at the beginning, He's talking about what are everyone mentioning at the time of Mecca. Now He proves His ability. He brings verse after verse of proof. Now what He does, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the next theme is, after all these proofs that you have heard, O mankind, now comes the what? Now comes the describing of this actual day. That on top of this, not only am I going to prove to you what I have done and my ability, but I'm also going to prove to you that what this day of judgment is going to be like and what is going to happen on this day. So this is verses 17 to 20. This should be in your books. So verse 17, Inna yawm al-fasli kana miqata. The word fasl, ufsul, means to basically spread apart, or to filter, or to basically set up into sections. Why did the word Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala use yawm al-fasli? So these are one of the words or the names of, for example, akhirah. There's many names of akhirah, and we know that when there's something that has many names, it's because it's something that is important. So al-fasl means to sort out. Who are we sorting out? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions clearly there is a sorting out of three groups of people. And this comes in Surah Al-A'raf. The first type of person, if you want to write this down, the first type of person are the believers. The second type of person is the hypocrite. And the third type of person is the disbelievers. These are the three people that will be sorted out, filtered through, or put into separate sections. Now, so inna yawm al-fasli kana miqata. The word miqat, we might hear this as well. For example, you might hear it when we're going into Hajj, the word miqat. So what this miqat means, it's a place where it's an appointed place or appointed time. So you guys, when we travel, if we travel into Hajj or Umrah, we have to travel through the miqat, and then we start our ihram. Same thing here now, is that this miqat though is talking about the meeting of the day of judgment, which is, we call it now, another word for it's like a deadline. And we all know this, that when we're alive, our every minute, our every second is like look at it as a stopwatch, but in reverse. That every second that goes away from our life is 1 second closer to our miqat, which is the inevitable akhirah. The first part of it is our grave. The second part of it is the day of judgment. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continues. Now let's see what is going to happen on this day. The day, what we have next one here. Now the day, يَوْمَ يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ فَتَأْتُونَ أَفْوَاجًا. Now this is important. يُنْفَخُ فِي الصُّورِ, the blowing of the horn. So when the trumpet is blown, you will come afwaja. So again, I'll speak to the ones that might have Arabic background, specifically Lebanese. We talk about the faj batata or faj jaj. So chicken or fries, faj, we call it in Arabic. So that means what? It means it's a large amount of fries, a large amount of chicken. But in this case, we're talking about a large amount of crowds of the billions and billions of human beings that have lived on this earth, and Allah will bring them forward. Now, very quickly, if you write this down, there are two trumpet blows. The first trumpet blow is not this. The first trumpet blow is the first blow that comes from angel Israfil, and this comes from the Tafseer al-Bashair. The angel Israfil, Allah orders the first blow, and that first blow of the trumpet is where everything dies. And this is where we mentioned last week, Allah orders everything to die, and then He orders Israfil to die, right? Now the second blowing is where Allah will bring us back. So He brings Israfil back. Israfil blows for the second time, and the second blowing is where we all come out of our graves and we all come to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where He mentions in other ayat, Allah, and the angels will be coming, descending, and we'll be all standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And inshallah, it is a day for us that we are pleased with, that a day where Allah is pleased with us, inshallah. And He says that what happens now is the sky that He mentioned before, وَفُتِحَتِ السَّمَاءُ فَكَانَتْ أَبْوَابًا. Now He says the sky that I mentioned to you previously in the previous verse, He says what? وَجَعَلْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا وَبَنَيْنَا فَوْقَكُمْ سَبْعًا شِدَادًا. I created above you 7 strong heavens. Now the one that created those 7 strong heavens has the ability to do what? To make them now frail and open like doors, as if now we're going to see crack after crack. And the next thing He says, now the mention of the mountains I mentioned to you about how powerful they are, وَسُيِّرَتِ الْجِبَالُ, and the mountains will vanish. Suyirat means it will vanish, it will disappear. وَسُيِّرَتِ الْجِبَالُ فَكَانَتْ سَرَابًا. And the word saraba linguistically means a word like a mirage. We have Allah use this word mirage as if when we have seen these mountains, and all of us look at mountains as something that's great. Like Mount Everest, that's something that people challenge themselves to go out and climb. So we look at this mountain, and now it becomes like a mirage for us, like it was never, ever there. And we keep reinforcing this to ourselves and our kids. Do we really want to sacrifice our akhirah and our day of judgment for a mirage? The mirage is not only the mountains, the mirage is this whole dunya. And the Prophet ﷺ came down to say, do not be deceived with this world, this hayat dunya, this world. This world is something that is temporary. This is something that will be destroyed. This is something that does not last forever. Do we want to sacrifice our akhirah for the sake of something that is temporary compared to something that is eternal? Inshallah, that is something that we do not put forward or be able to even negotiate. That we understand that the akhirah is the key. وَسُيِّرَتِ الْجِبَالُ فَكَانَتْ سَرَابًا. Those mountains He mentioned before now crumble. Now He continues. So now He's mentioned, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about what people are talking about in Mecca, and obviously continuously, this is a continual debate. Then He talks about, He proves His ability. Then He talks about, not on top of that, not only does He prove His ability, but He shows us what the day of judgment is going to be like. Now He describes, after all of this, we're on this day, He mentions the day of judgment and the consequences of this day. These are quite harsh verses, but we will mention later why these harsh verses are justified for the deniers of this day. Because denying this day is a form of kufr. Denying the day of judgment is disbelief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most important aspect of our tawheed and our aqidah in Islam is the belief that we believe in Allah alone and we believe in the day of judgment. Now, Inna Jahannam, so we start. Inna Jahannam, the hellfire. Inna Jahannam kanat mirsada. Kanat mirsada. Look at this word. Mirsada means to ambush. And a good example would be, if any of us know a bit of our history, for example, we have the Trojan horse. When the Greeks used the Trojan horse, they used a form of like a trick where they're sitting inside a horse. And when they went in and opened the gates, they said it was a gift. They actually had soldiers in there and they took over the city. This type, it means Allah is showing that it will take you by surprise. And there is no preparation for this. It will take whatever it needs to take. Only with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is not allowed to take. That is its job. Its creation is to ambush and to bring as many people as possible in. لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا. A very quick thing here. The creation of Jahannam, many of the ulama talk about this, it's through the form of rahmah of Allah. The mercy of Allah, it might sound harsh that Allah created Jahannam, But this Jahannam is that it keeps us away from us and keeps us in boundaries. It keeps us within our boundaries for us not to exceed our boundaries. So we look at our life, a lot of us stay away from alcohol, from drugs, from cheating. All of this is something that's going to destroy your life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala giving this warning of Jahannam is actually through His rahmah to keep us in check and to keep us having boundaries, because He knows that our creation, what we are like. And Allah keeps going. لِلطَّاغِينَ مَآبًا. Who is it? It's the home of the rebellious. لِلطَّاغِينَ. Rebellious who? What kind of rebellious? The ones that make fun of those that believe. The ones that think that they can go in and take over any country and invade and kill and massacre and rape and steal and do whatever they like on this earth, thinking that there is no day of judgment. Like we even look into history, for example, Hitler they say he killed over 6 million people in his regime. The person that has done this form of oppression, or for example, the occupation of Israel for the last 50, 60 years, and the oppression and the murder and the stealing and the occupation that's occurred, does this just all go unnoticed? Or is there a day that all of this is going to be accounted for? And of course, through the rahmah and justice of Allah, He's saying that this will be accounted for. And on top of that, the people that are the rebellious, the ones that were making fun of those believers in dunya, that their home, ma'aba, means it's going to be a continual home. They're returning to this home. That don't think that there's going to be any other way for you to go. Just like when we go out on a holiday, we know that we're going to come back to our home. So if they're thinking they're going to go somewhere, they might have their little home now, but at the end of the day, their return is Jahannam. And not on top of that, the way this Jahannam is going to be لَابِثِينَ فِيهَا أَحْقَابًا. They will be staying in there forever and ever and ever. This is a majority opinion. This is our belief in Aqidah, that Jannah and Jahannam are eternal. There is no ending to this place. Those that exceeded those boundaries and were rebellious and disbelieved in Allah will be there eternally. So, and on top of this, Allah gave this form of analogy it's a form of psychology that we might think, a lot of us, for example, are going to prison. If we go into prison, they might say you have a 10-year sentence. I look at it, my 10-year sentence, after the 10 years, I feel like, all right, beautiful, I'm about to leave. Wow, I'm excited now. However, when it hits the 10 years, they come out and announce, the wardens and for example, the judges, you need to now go back for another 10 years and another 10 years. And this is what will be happening to the dwellers of Jahannam, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us and keep us away from this place and not be able to, inshallah, not even a moment, because we can't handle this. We all know this. لا يذوقون, on top of that, لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا. They do not, in there is no relief with time. There is no relief with any coolness or anything to drink. However, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses a form of sarcasm as well. And this sarcasm is a form of what? Mockery for now. The ones that used to mock the believers are now being mocked. And the last laugh are for those that believe. Illa, he says, but, except if you want to drink, I'm only going to give you one form of drink. That illa hamiman wa ghassaqa. This ghassaq, it's basically a secretion from the body. So if you cook up chicken or meat, you'll see that there's fluids that come out of that meat. It's the same thing, but this meat, the fluids that's going to come out of it, is coming out of the body and the flesh of them, and they'll be drinking that pus. This is how serious it is. Inshallah, and I have one more minute. Jaza'an wifaqa. We'll just finish the first thing, which is only 4 more verses, inshallah. So we'll go there. Jaza'an wifaqa, a fitting recompense. A fitting recompense. And we spoke about this earlier. Allah is just in all that He does. Anyone that enters Jahannam is from his own bad doing. So inshallah khair, you need to, guys, think about this. Allah does not do wrong by anyone or anything. The ones that are entering Jahannam is from their own bad doing. إِنَّهُمْ كَانُوا لَا يَرْجُونَ حِسَابًا. Why? Because they were people that did not believe in Akhirah. And on top of that, they would mock and we hear a lot of conversations even today, and I'm sure a lot of you get this, that they mock and they make fun. Oh, you actually believe that there's a day of judgment? You believe that when we die and become bone, that we're going to be standing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again? Yes, the one that created you first from nothing is easy to replicate you once again. And وَكَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا كِذَّابًا. And what did they do? They completely rejected our signs. Sign after sign, Nabi after Nabi came to give this alan, to give this reminder, and to give this what? Every prophet came to give this what? This warning of this day. وَكُلَّ شَيْءٍ أَحْصَيْنَاهُ كِتَابًا. And Allah says, beware, O people, believers, non-believers, everything you do in your life, it is recorded. It is going to be recorded and brought forward on the day of judgment. And now those that disbelieve, فَذُوقُوا, again, a form of mockery, فَذُوقُوا, so now taste, فَلَن نَزِيدَكُمْ إِلَّا عَذَابًا. The only thing we're going to be increasing you, O people that are treacherous, or people that are rebellious, those people that were misguiding on earth, the only thing we're going to increase you now, just like we used to increase you in dunya to keep you away from akhirah, we're going to increase you now, what? With not money and not women and material, and not with aspects of material aspects. We're going to only increase you with adhab, which is torment. We have finished, alhamdulillah, the major themes. We are now onto the second page of Surah an-Naba, alhamdulillah. So inshallah next week we'll be continuing with the final verses, which is inshallah a bit of a relief. It's actually going to be talking about the dwellers of Jannah, of paradise, a much better, inshallah, and easier verses to go through. And inshallah we'll go through those, and we'll start with Nazi'at.